Innovating Education Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.
Pupils running their own schools may sound like a recipe for chaos, but today more and more people believe in the effectiveness of involving students in decision-making processes. We'll take a look at some examples of how it can work. If you'd had the chance to choose your teachers when you were at school, what skills or qualities would you have looked for? In this report from Australia, we meet the students getting a say in who's in and who's out.
In some Australian schools, students help interview new teachers before they're hired. This lets pupils provide a different and important perspective on who will educate them. Nosal High School, on the outskirts of Melbourne, is among a handful of Victorian schools using student selection panels.
It gives us a voice, which in many schools, especially in teenage years, it's always focusing on the negativity of teenagers, but the fact that at Nosal we're empowered and we're treated like adults.
As a student, we get to just get a feel of how that teacher interacts with us, because it's not just about delivering the message or the information of the subject to us, but it's also that student-teacher relationship that we have at Nosal, and that's very important.
It all started when Principal Roger Page was given the opportunity to design this government school from the ground up. One of his main goals was to empower students in every way.
One of the things I was really keen on as part of that adult learning environment, that we had really authentic student voice. For the second year we thought, well, let's get some students involved in the selection process, and we called for volunteers, and approximately half the students in the school volunteered to be on selection panels. They thought that was a nice idea.
Cherry Chan is in Year 12. She clearly sees the benefits the students get from having student panels and why it makes the high school special.
The students are the one in the classroom learning from the teachers, not other teachers at the school learning from the teachers. So it's very important for the student to be able to choose exactly what they want, and if they feel like they can communicate well with the teacher.
It seems like he's going to lack a few.
The students on the interview panel go through a training program to make sure they assess teachers in a professional, confidential and fair way.
As students, we are capable of being professional and choosing teachers knowledgeably, not just based on what we want or what we see.
The students aren't the sole members of those panels, and the decision ultimately is made by the principal in all those sorts of panels, and we do it as a consensus and as a collaborative group.
However, there have been critics, including the Australian Education Union, which argues that students lack the necessary expertise and experience to vet their teachers. But most applaud the idea, and with the right amount of mentoring, see it as beneficial to everyone involved. Many teachers agree that no one better understands what students need than the students themselves.
The two students who interviewed me were very articulate, and they had a vested interest in who I would be because they'd both taken VCE music. So they knew what they wanted and they knew what answers they were looking for.
Student power! Choosing your teacher is one thing, but how about rating their performance? We visit a university in Portugal that is putting young people on the evaluation panel. But how is this role reversal going down with teachers?
The most important quality for a teacher, I think, is to be able to explain the same concept in different ways, to reach all kinds of students, as they may come from different backgrounds or think in different ways.
For me, a good teacher is available and approachable to the students while also being strict. I think these qualities are essential.
It's about being fair and not having favourite students.
8 years ago, the University of Porto launched a pedagogical survey so that students could rate their teachers. Sofia Castro-Gotten teaches math to students in management, and she often gets good ratings. The pass rate for this class used to be very low, around 50%, and is now close to 80% thanks to changes in her teaching methods. Her efforts, as well as those of her colleague Paulo Bleza Vasconcelos, were recognized this year when both received an award for educational excellence.
Sempre tivemos avaliações
We have always had good or very good results in the assessments. Students have been very positive about the strategy we've been putting in place over the last 3 years.
I don't like to call it an assessment. I think it's an opinion survey, which is very useful for those who want to think about the way they teach and interact with their students.
Students are invited to rate the learning structure, the relationship the teacher has with pupils, and the help he or she provides. Students also assess to what degree the learning environment encourages their autonomy. If a teacher's survey results remain negative for more than one school year, the pedagogical council steps in and the teachers introduce changes. The Vice-Chancellor says teachers did not protest the idea. To him, the surveys are a success story.
We've had several cases where the results in the pedagogical surveys improved significantly over the years, including for teachers who are considered not to have a very good relationship with students and who have better evaluations today.
Among those who analyzed the survey's results is Stefan. He's part of the university's coordinating council for the education model, which works on improving teaching methods. He plays an important role in the system because, as a student, he also takes part in the survey.
This teacher didn't give me enough support to allow me to work in an autonomous way, so I gave him a lower ranking. I hope these surveys' results will bring the teacher to correct this and to encourage students' autonomy in the next school year.
However, according to the university, only around 30% of students participated in the online survey this past semester, a sign that many still think their opinion won't be heard.
Next, we discover a school that calls itself the oldest children's democracy in the world. But now apparent, what does a former pupil make of optional classes and student-made rules? Just an educational utopia? Let's find out in the UK.
Summerhill has been called the world's most controversial school. It's a place where pupil power reigns. Lessons are optional and children make up the rules. These images, shot in 1985 by former student Quincy Russell, show how children experienced what was, and still is, considered a radical approach to education. Now living in France with 2 children of his own, Jake and Maëlys, who also went to Summerhill, he admits sending them to school overseas was heartbreaking, but he didn't want to deny them the experience he had.
I knew what they were going through. I knew where they were going. I'd lived through it, and I thought, well, who are you to refuse to give them that kind of beautiful education of respect and listening and love and trust and community?
Pupils in Summerhill are aged 6 to 18. Creative arts have the same status as academic subjects. With lessons optional, Quincy, Maëlys and Jake all remember how they naturally developed a love of learning, from biology to English and woodcraft.
Who's going to take her?
Another standout feature of Summerhill was its principle of democracy, putting students and teachers on an equal footing. The rules at school were set in weekly meetings where adults and children's votes carried the same weight.
In Summerhill, I don't see the difference between adults and students. We are just the same. They're like friends. You have to respect everyone the same. So if you shout at a teacher or shout at another student, it's exactly the same. There's no difference. They have the same power in the meeting. They have the same power anywhere.
Free choice and democracy define Summerhill and place the child at the center of learning. Though the school has been threatened with closure, a recent inspection found its methods outstanding, especially in terms of spiritual and moral learning.
I didn't learn how, what country went where, what, big war did what, but I did learn how to make a choice and want to do stuff and want what I want to do, listening to myself and listening to what I want to do.
Summerhill's founder, Alexander Sutherland Neal, once said he'd rather see the school produce a happy street sweeper than an erotic prime minister.
Now over to you. How do you feel about students having the power to make educational decisions? Let us know your thoughts on our social media pages. We look forward to hearing from you.
Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.